Hello and welcome to our YouTube channel, RV Tips from Jan. Today's topic, expensive RVer mistakes that we have or nearly have experienced. We all know the importance of following a regular routine when we're both setting up and tearing down at the campsite. And we also know that if we get distracted from that routine, we can make a mistake that can be very costly and even dangerous in some situations. We're hoping that this video that we share with you here will help you to avoid making these kinds of mistakes. Many of these we've actually experienced ourselves firsthand, or we've seen from fellow campers as we've been out and about. I've also included a number of pictures. Some of these are what I would call tongue-in-cheek in that they are not the actual RV accident, but I have added these here to dramatize how these particular accidents can impact our experience as an RV owner and camper. So let's get started. I recently put out a video about a bonehead move that I made on our very last camp outing, and it was the result of a fellow camper who was very nice coming up and introducing himself, starting to talk to me as I was going through my setup routine. And let me add, it was at the end of the day. My wife was in the trailer setting up for dinner. She was anxious for me to get the RV completely set up so that I could start grilling our dinner. And of course, by me getting sidetracked in this conversation, I missed an important step in the setup process, one that nearly cost us the RV. I'll talk about that as I go through this video. So some of the setup mistakes that can happen to us, particularly if we get off of our regular routine, not having a spotter to check our clearances from side to side and top to bottom as we back into the site. This is particularly important if we have a larger RV and we're trying to get into a tight campsite. This is certainly important if it's getting late in the day and your visibility is impaired. But just as a matter of good practice, having your spouse get out of the truck or car and get to the back of the campsite to make sure that you have sufficient clearance so that you're not backing into a tree or a picnic table or the electrical box as you're positioning your trailer is just good standard practice. Sometimes we are so seasoned that we think that we can just do it very quickly, get on with the rest of the setup, and in the process, we experience an accident. And here's one of those situations where a pop-up trailer backed into the electrical box. It did damage to the corner and to the top of the trailer itself. And not only is this not pleasant from a cosmetic standpoint, but it can actually lead to water damage if the top has been penetrated. Not checking our clearances when we are going to extend our slide. You want to make sure that before you extend that slide, you have sufficient clearance that you're not going to have the slide run into something. Now here's a bit of a tongue-in-cheek picture. Wow, I didn't notice that tree stump was there. And it hit the bottom of the slide out. We saw a situation recently where a camper pulled into a KOA site. They did not have sufficient clearance to allow their slide out to open and clear the upright water pipe. And wouldn't you know it, as they put that slide out in the out position, it broke the water pipe off, and our side of the campground was without water for about 4 hours. This happened late in the afternoon, and by the time they got the water turned back on, it was late at night, and I can tell you that the management of that campground was not very happy, and of course, the owner of the trailer was not very happy either. Not leveling the RV before we push out the slides. Boy, this is really critical because you can do some severe damage to the slide mechanism. And it's absolutely important that we remember the last thing we do after we've gone through our entire setup procedure is to put the slide out. That assures that we've got everything level and we're ready to go. When we're ready to tear down, one of the first things we want to do before we start to hook up the trailer to the tow vehicle is pull that slide back into the RV while the RV is still level. If we fail to do that, we can run into this situation. And we were this past summer camping, and one of our sons in our group had rented a trailer. And sure enough, the people that were setting it up didn't get it level, and the slide out got cocked and locked into place about 3/4 of the way out. Now, we were able to use that trailer for the week that we were there, but when it came time for the rental people to pick it up and take it to another site, they could not get that slide out back in, and they had to travel with the slide out in the out position, all because they didn't take the time when they were setting up to make sure that the trailer was good and level before they tried to reposition that slide out. That is just critical. Failing to chalk the RV tires before disconnecting the RV from the tow vehicle. Well, remember at the start of this video, I talked about the bonehead move that I made because I got distracted. This was it. I hate to say it, and I'm embarrassed to admit it, but I didn't chalk the 4 tires on our RV. We were on an incline. We were pretty much level side to side, but we were anything but level from front to back, with the slope being towards the back of the trailer. And because I got distracted and did not put the chocks on the wheels, I lifted the trailer tongue off the ball, and you can just imagine what happened. It dropped off of the block that I had the electric lift setting on. And fortunately, because we were on a grassy area and not on blacktop or on concrete, that pole that was a part of the electric lift on the hitch dug into the ground and did stop the trailer from going more than about 4 feet. However, my wife was in the trailer when all of this happened. I'm trying to grab onto the trailer to stop it. Obviously, that was a futile move. And the guy who had distracted me, he was like, his eyes were bigger than saucers, and he's trying to help me. Thankfully, the trailer came to a rest, and we didn't do any real damage, but this was a real wake-up call in terms of not allowing myself to get distracted during the setup. Fortunately, it was a happy ending, but it could have been a real disaster. Wonder what our insurance company would say about this particular situation if they learned that the cause was the fact that we forgot to chalk the tires on the RV. Awning mistakes. Not checking our clearances on our awning arms to our exit doors on our trailer. Some of the smaller trailers have the doors or door positioned such that if that door is in the 3/4 open position, it can actually catch on the arm for the awning extension. And some of the trailers with 2 doors, the rear door, you could run into the same situation. So it's really important when we're opening and closing that awning that we're mindful of where our door is positioned relative to those awning arms. If we don't, we can run into a situation like this. Wow, I thought our awning was clear of the rear door, which was open about 3/4. And it did damage to the awning arm. This is not only inconvenient and expensive, but can really make it tough to pull that awning back and get it in place for traveling to return home. not checking the awning clearance toward that big tree next to our RV. We can get in a hurry. One of the last things that we tend to do after everything is set up is put out our awning. Sometimes we don't even put it out until we've been at the campsite some period of time. And if we're not careful and we happen to park too close to a tree, we can do some pretty serious damage to that awning. This shows you what could happen if you put out that awning. There's a great big tree and you can destroy your awning if you're not careful. Teardown mistakes, not cleaning off the slide before we close it. If we have those slide out covers, we don't have to worry about this, but many of us do not. And the caption reads, well, at least the bathroom floor stayed clean. Bringing the slide out, and in came the leaves. Teardown mistakes. Number 2, not taking the time to properly hook up the trailer to tow the vehicle. This can happen if you get distracted, but the results can certainly be catastrophic. The safety chains need to be in place. You need to be plugged in on the electrics, and you need to make sure that the hitch is securely in place and locked onto the ball of your tow vehicle. If you don't, this can lead to not only a severe accident, but potential death. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. Don't be like I was and make a bonehead move and forget to do something as a part of your setup or tear down. And if you follow your normal procedures, you should not run into any of these problems. Thanks for watching, and please, if you found this video to be helpful, check that subscription box. But as we say at the end of all of our videos, please continue to be safe and stay well. Thanks again.